Alright. My baby is in my shirt, that's why it looks like this. And honestly, my kitten's been sleeping in my shirt since he was like little. Because he was taken from his mom. Too soon. So, just so you know that I'm not being weird here. Holding myself. Alright, we are on the 7th chapter. The disease of the human being. And I'm just going to say that usually I'm reading ahead. So whatever I've posted, I've already read a couple chapters ahead. And this is one of them that I haven't yet because I'm kind of behind. So here we go. I had been able to fall asleep after several failed attempts. I had been able to fall asleep for several failed attempts. Among so many thoughts and explosions heard in the distance, thinking that maybe none of this was real. It couldn't be happening. It was too much information to process in my confused mind. I was abruptly awakened by the captain's voice. "William, up! It's time to march," he said in a firm voice, almost like an order. I could barely grasp the situation and again be aware that we were under an enemy attack, an enemy I was still almost completely unaware of. Butler had gathered the whole team together. Everyone was safe, and it brought my soul back to my body. We embraced each other as the great team we were, and for all the situations we had been through, an almost brotherly reunion in an unknown continent where only native beings were happening all around. We went out to the central corridor that crossed with the presidential Fowl's door. The captain was worried and ordered us to hurry as much as we could. The thousands of people that were crowded in the buildings were gone. What had happened? What had happened to them? What had happened to them? I didn't even have time to ask before the boys commented as they passed by that the evacuation plan has been activated. One of them, with astonishment, told me, "We saw big trains and thousands of ships overhead carrying many people at incredible speeds, William." Did I read that right? The captain came back to us saying that is exactly what we were going to do. We will get on one of those ships that has to leave in 12 minutes. Sorry. I don't know what I'm trying to do here. I need to take my gum out. Sorry. It's kind of getting in the way. Like, it helps with my dry throat, but it doesn't help with talking, so. Where am I? The captain came back to us saying that is exactly what we are going to do. We will get on one of those ships that has to leave in 12 minutes. Hurry up the pace then. We will have time to talk about everything that is happening. I know you have so many questions that will be answered as soon as we arrive to safe lands. We had barely arrived to the supposed safe lands, and now again we were looking for other lands. It seemed that we were turning the lands into unsafe. We were arriving and hell was falling around us. I feared that people would think that we were cursed and we were bringing calamity with us. Calamity? With us. I think I said that right. Practically running through the desolation streets, destroyed by the bombs that had fallen. I managed to look at the sky again, and those little spheres were gone, but in their place were passing in an incredible speed with big bluish big bluish triangles from one side to another. I could not help but stopping for a minute when the captain noticed my fault. He returned to his pace, shouting at me, "William, leave the skies for a second. Now is not the time. Those flying birds are friends. The iron blues are making the enemy retreat. Now please, let's get to our destination urgently." I had no choice and gave into such a plea, although it was quite hard for me to let pass such a majestic flight of those bluebirds. They were flying from one side to another. They were flying in a magnificent and singular way. I could not believe that they were being directed by someone or something else. They seemed as if they had a mind of their own. When we arrived at the supposed destination, there were many agents apparently waiting for Butler and therefore all of us, although they seemed to be relieved to know that the captain was alive. Then they reapproached us for our delay, and that they only had to wait a few minutes longer. They practically put us quickly on a silver platform, and it took us to the top while we were contemplating a contradictory. Okay, I know what that word is. I can't pronounce it. View. Yeah. View. That view. Between fire, death, and desolation to the other side of a modern city, with structures never seen before, the represented absolute prosperity. In the sky, the iron blues were still battling against these fears that were already far from the coast. The captain asked if this view did not remind us of the portraits of Nuremberg and Basel. But we all looked at each other without understanding what he was referring to. Nuremberg and Basel. As soon as we arrived at the top floor, some agents greeted us with a warm welcome, commenting that we were about to have a unique experience touching the clouds. These ships were not at all like the ones we had in our minds, if we would ever imagine such a thing. The structures was huge, and they seemed to be made of one piece. There seemed to be routes in the skies leading to different ones separately, there and back. These supposed large iron structures were lost in the horizon. From what I was told by the same agent who received us, they connected every point of the big cities. He told me to prepare myself because the first experience of traveling in these great ships was something that would never be forgotten. A dark blue ship was waiting for us. Once inside, the opening closed automatically. I sat next to Butler in seats of four. I sat next to Butler in seats of four. The interior seemed even bigger than it was on the outside. Soon to sit down, it started up, but we could barely hear a faint whistling sound. Butler and the agents asked us to try and relax. That getting used to these iron giants was going to take some time getting used to at first, but then we wouldn't notice. As soon as the trip began, one of the boys was the first to collapse with a fainted spell, but he came to quickly. I felt dizzy and missed Butler's conversation with the agents. I tried to relax and join the frantic trip that seemed to be ejected like a ball from the most powerful English cannon. At times we would enter long tunnels and everything would go dark. At those moments I thought I would pass out too, but I got around this feeling of temporary nausea and dizziness as best I could, and after 15 or 20 minutes we were all traveling smoothly. It was time to pay attention to the beautiful landscapes of the ancestral republic. Renaissance in the distance was the most modern and prosperous city that not even the great literarian minds could have imagined. The surroundings were tinged with various colors due to the large plantations of vegetables, flowers, and fruit trees. The green was predominant. It was a really emotional view that invited to live in this small Eden. In fact, according to what I heard, there were some nearby islands called the Islands of Eden. That even provided a greater spectacle, and its name described them perfectly. Although I could not afford to miss listening to the interesting conversation of Butler with the others about the war strategies that were developing, at a moment when At a moment when his big talk of plans and strategies ended, I knew it was my chance to again satate my questions. I had as many as the reader will surely have at this point. I didn't know where to start. Butler beat me to the punch and outdated the next question. Butler beat me to the punch and outlined the next question. How much did the last air measurement yield? How much damage do we have in the area? One of the agents replied that they were sure they had acted in time, and for the reason the attack was made in the same area where the numbers showed possible poisoning of the air in nearby plantations. I could no longer bear this conversation that seemed like undecipherable codes to me and to the whole group. So I got up my courage and asked, "Can you explain to us which poisoning are you talking about?" Butler looked at the group somewhat with communication and explained succinctly. Succinctly. They poison the air. Let's see. How do I explain? The human that was born in their lands gets sick quickly due to the work that the custodians do. The disease is usually implanted in the first humans, or better said, the babies left from the last reset, or maybe the second generation as well, to make sure, but that is also not uncommon for